What are the tried and true methods for delivering a great customer experience? I mean, there's no shortage of advice. Delivering Happiness argues that customer service should not be a department because it's a responsibility of the entire company. It helps to provide an effortless experience where ease and reliability remain the most important considerations for consumers. And success here may lead to raving fans, where average customers become brand advocates, some of which may establish a cult of the customer. And too much advice can be overwhelming. You may opt for a handbook, straightforward guidelines that form helpful guardrails. See, in today's marketplace, quality is a given. Customer experience has become the distinguishing factor. But despite all this best-selling advice, none of it matters without a fundamental understanding of your current situation paired with an appropriate strategy for moving forward. But how do you interact with your customers? With so many transactions requiring no human interaction whatsoever, the remaining few, well, they're that much more critical. A well-optimized contact center provides a hub for customer insights and satisfaction. Now, you may not call what you do now a contact center, but the principles are the same. And today's show centers on the contact center maturity model as a tool for clarifying your strategy. We've got competency on the y-axis with maturity here on the x, and Worldwide has defined 5 stages ramping up from least to most mature. The first stage is called voice only. These operations are generally flying by the seat of their pants, costs are high, agents are frustrated. Needless to say, these are generally not the most streamlined operations, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Hold that thought. Moving up now to self-service, this stage is characterized by some back-end system integration providing support through a touch-tone interface. Customers are still limited to phone-based interactions, but agents are getting more specialized, and it allows them to focus on more complex customer escalations. Now, the third stage here introduces multi-channel. Operations at this stage have expanded their communication streams to include email, web, chat, and maybe SMS text messaging. However, these channels are not aware of each other. There is no unification or sharing of data, which means it's up to the agents to find helpful context, assuming they even have the time. Now, integrating these isolated channels into the contact center so the complete customer journey can be captured and shared slots your operation into stage 4 on the maturity curve. Agents here can access actionable insights with a unified desktop. Customer experience and loyalty are generally top priorities. Well, they are going to be top priorities. And this brings us to stage 5, intelligent and automated. All the previous capabilities are still present, but operate in a more refined manner with some advanced bells and whistles. Now, these may be AI-based, including natural language understanding, but all are integrated into the contact center to deliver automated, self-service voice, calling, and web interactions. Now, these stages should be thought of as a starting point. Each stage can have curves within curves, and your operation may not fit neatly into just one. And as a strategy, it may look like the goal is to simply move up the maturity curve, but that's not always the case. Well, we have 2 experts from Worldwide's contact center practice. Morgan Laville is a business development manager, and her counterpart, Patrick Bond, is a technical solutions architect. My name is Rob Boyd. Welcome to WWD Presents Research, accelerating results through the knowledge and the achievements of those who came before us. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Other than just your formal titles, I want to get an idea of what you've been up to, because I've worked with both of you before in different capacities. Things change. You guys stay busy for sure. But to start with you, Morgan, you mind telling us what you do for Worldwide and anything else interesting we should know about you?
Sure thing. Hey, Rob. Morgan Laville. I'm business development management for Worldwide's contact center practice. Consider me the tip of the spear. I help triage any opportunities that come through as far as contact center, customer experience, and also field enablement, and just evangelizing our abilities in the contact center space to our customers and our sellers within Worldwide. Been here for about 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. And
Just 2
working
years
with
seems
the
like it's
great,
been longer.
I know. Well, that's what happens. Time flies when you have a baby. So
Oh, congratulations.
I'm had the fortune of working with the technical solutions architect like Patrick and his team here.
Ah, perfect. Well, Patrick, she did a nice segue to you there. Tell us more about what you do. You are a technical solutions architect, yes?
My name is Patrick Bond, and I am a technical solution architect in the contact center space here. My team sees every contact center opportunity that flows through Worldwide's desk. So we see some interesting topics come up. Definitely some cool problems come our way, and our job is to figure out potential solutions and partnerships and products that can help with that. So we usually get opportunities that come through Morgan first, and then we have to figure out ways to solve them, whether it's an organizational solution or whether it's a technical one, and they kind of tie that all together. And I tend to focus in the large enterprise space, um, so that's starting to shift a lot from on-prem into cloud as we go along. But you know, all kinds of interesting things pop up.
Well, I'm curious if how often do you have to then figure out how you're going to actually make something happen that Morgan or someone on our team promised? Because you live with the reality of the deployment, is there a
Oh,
disconnect there? Or you guys
well,
pretty in sync?
well, so it's not that hard because we're still both in pre-sale, so I'm not in delivery anymore, so that's good.
We're talking about the contact center maturity model. Um, but what does that mean? I explained a little bit in the open about what the maturity model is, but what does it mean to you? Why was it created? And Morgan, I'll get your reflections on this too when Patrick wraps.
Yeah, well, I think one of the for contact center, it's really important to have some sort of common ground to have an idea of here's what we're talking about because there is so much to it. You could ask 10 different people within an organization what contact center means to them, and you might get 10 different answers. So it's really important to have some sort of centralized thing to point to and say this is what we mean. Talk to an IT person, they're kind of say, oh, this uh, this box that we have to update all the time and is really annoying to maintain, and they're it's critical, but they don't know about the business side of it. Now you might talk to your contact center manager, and it's very different. So it's a way for us to have everyone get on the same page about what the discussion is and where we want to be.
Gotcha. Morgan, what would you say to that?
I would agree with Patrick, but from our perspective, I think it helps our customers understand the art of the possible. There's a lot of change in our market, especially when you think about legacy contact center systems, and it's not the most well integrated, most intuitive instrument in the orchestration, right? So in today's market, a lot of the cloud platforms have those integrations or those features pre-built, and it brings a lot of the business units that are using adjunct systems and kind of tying into the contact center into that one fell swoop. Like, how can we address all of their needs? So what is the art of the possible? How does that address different business needs? And how can we do it in a simpler manner and in a quicker approach as well?
Well, I know a lot of the concepts that we're talking about here apply beyond contact center, but I'm curious, do you often find people that are doing contact center type things, but aren't necessarily even calling it that yet? And therefore there's a little bit of a disconnect with knowing that, no, you're in this. You should be thinking about this as a discipline. Does that come up?
There's a very popular argument for contact center positioning is that every customer has a contact center. You might not know it, right?
Mm.
There's always well, at least maybe I've heard it too many times because I have family in the industry, but a contact center for a used car dealership. You have someone who's taking an inbound calls for sales, for parts, for service. How are you triaging those customers, those requests, those needs, the intake, right?
Yeah.
And then all links get on to what Patrick mentioned earlier, our enterprise customers. So the case for contact center needs and what people are doing, if you're interacting with your customers, you have a contact center.
Okay, good. I was afraid you were going to shed some light on where I wasn't thinking, because that does make sense to me. Because it feels like, and you're reminding me of this because I bought a truck not too long ago again, and there is that one person that I see because I'm always having to stand around the dealership taking calls, and they're distributing to salespeople or saying, "Oh, you need service" or something like this, and of course the service are inbound calls. But these are all moments of when I was in the hotel business, we called these kind of golden moments where you're interacting with a customer who has a value to you, and how you come across and how well you retain or how well you respond and things like this, it seems like are going to definitely make a difference in the business. Well, Patrick, back to you. I'm curious, where do most organizations land on this curve? So as you present it to them, it feels like it's relatively easy to start understanding at a high level, but then there's a lot of beautiful detail underneath. So it can be kind of deceiving in that sense.
They're never as high as they want to be. I'll tell you that, right? If they were as high as they want to be, we probably wouldn't be as busy as we are. So I'm happy about that. But it's as everything is becoming more and more within that argument of this should be in a contact center, and especially as you go further and further along in that maturity curve. where everything is everything and it's all, strategies and, class strategy, network strategy, data strategy, they're all tying in together. It's harder to move up. So typically most people really come in that 2 to 3 area, which is we have some traditional contact center. Then it's the tying things together, making it seamless, getting to that omni-channel. That's where things usually tend to fall off significantly. And that's where people want to be. But that also presents probably the greatest challenge is going up from a 3 to a 4 is very hard because you need so much buy-in from all parts of the organization. It's no longer just, oh, here's our contact center box. You were mentioning that all those kind of golden touch points or whatever, you were thinking, yeah, that can be a contact center. It is, right? It might not be formalized in a specific
Yeah.
system and called contact center, but that workflow is how are we going to take in customer interaction and formalize it so that it gets the proper handling. So that conversation can expand very quickly if that's how you
Hmm.
want to categorize it. And that's what we're
Right.
trying to do as systems become easier to roll out and maintain, is that we're able to say, well, that tiny little one person group can be a contact center. You can give reporting on it as opposed to just, oh, well, we have good notes from the day. Or it
Yeah.
could be the 5,000 agents taking all the inbound call flows for your, airline or something like that and everything in between.
It helps with the mindset shift if you begin to realize that a touch point is a customer contact, that at least should be respected and thought of with some of this formality, even if you're not necessarily adopting, a lot of technological advanced things that require integrations from multiple departments. That's okay. This is not about though moving up. Turns out I'm at a 2 and we really need to get to a 4 by next year. What's the right way to think about moving between these levels and how you should think of yourself? Is it a grading or is it informational?
No,
How should it be thought of?
no, if you're trying to grade yourself on it, I think you're approaching it incorrectly, right? Really what this is it takes what you might think is a technical conversation of, oh, what do I have to buy? What system do I have to put in? And really makes it an organizational and business maturity conversation of who are we and what are we trying to do? If you think you have to be a 5, no, you absolutely do not. Maybe that's not the best way to interact with your customers. I think our best example of that is one of our large customers and projects that we're working on, and the only reason I'll mention is because it's literally tweeted out by the White House. Is at the VA they're working on a veterans crisis line,
Okay.
and their goal is to just have, as soon as someone calls in, they get an agent. They have someone to support them when they're having a mental health breakdown or they need some help. They don't need to be a 5 for that. They want to be the best one that ever was, right? I call in, it's reliable, and I get to somebody immediately. They don't need any fancy, natural language and automate it. Nope. They just need to get to a person as quickly as possible. So who you are and what you're trying to do is really something that we need to determine. And that's what we're trying to establish before we start trying to sell you anything or pick a product. Because why are we going to push a product before we understand what your needs really are? Doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I'm just going to make fun of you this because you brought it up, but you're not product pushers in any sense, and you're not just waiting for your chance to do that because
Well,
I've worked with you
maybe
guys
at the
long
end of
enough.
the quarter. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it
I
depends
mean,
on
I
when we
guess,
talk to you.
I guess we're
Fair
trying to
enough.
close out, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I hear you saying there, and Morgan, I get your reflection on this as well because you were nodding, but it feels like it's if the VA is saying this is what's most important, they're saying this is our customer and this is what we want to do to be able to interact with them, especially because you're talking about crisis. So I can see where the interaction and voice becomes more important. It's not as if rate your crisis from 1 to 5 and they want to get stuck with DTMF interaction. But yeah, what are your thoughts on how to think about this not being a grading? Because it's hard not to. We're so conditioned to move up. It's 1 to 5. Oh, I need to get up to the 5. How do you describe it?
I think to add a little bit more complexity to our methodology, which I'm sure our marketing team will love me hearing say this, we can have maturity curves for the different levels within the maturity curve. So say that you want to
Mm,
be a 1, how mature is that level 1?
that
You
makes
want to
sense.
introduce multi-channel or omni-channel, how mature do you want that to be? Where are you at now? And then you mentioned it just now, you're meeting your customers where you need to, but in regards to the VA, but say that going back to your earlier question, where do you see a lot of customers today? If you had to put a number and just a guesstimate, right? A lot of our customers are at level 3, which is multi-channel.
Mhm.
But if you add maturity curve to that, you go, how well built is that? How mature is your multi-channel strategy? And almost leaning way to omni-channel so that you can fully integrate it, right? So I think to that point, we have maturities within our maturity model.
Well, and I don't think that that's bad to say because I think that's a reality of really any technology set, right? Which is in marketing and when we need to tell a story, we're going to oversimplify certain things at a level, and we all need it, even at the complex levels. But then there is a reality, and this is what you guys specialize in, I feel like, which is getting in, understanding a customer, where they've been, what they're struggling with, versus what they want to achieve, where they want to take it. And none of those answers are wrong because you're just here to support the customer on that journey and just help them get some more specific tasks and things they can accomplish to move that forward versus just dreaming about it. And that's what I like out of this tool, which is the notion of saying, oh, this is a way to describe what we do in this space that is different from something else, and either explain this is why we're here and that we don't want to do these other things, or why we're doing this now. And here's some priorities we've got about where we want to go in the next year or two.
You can give the business and everyone who's involved in this discussion or this roadmap or this rip and replace or migration a voice. And it can also help bridge that gap between the business and the technology and who's maintaining it from the customer perspective, right? So showing the business being like, this is what we've been asking you for, this is where we want to be, and our ability to map that back to the services, integrations, the product that would be or may be required, right? And as well as the project management and the implementation for that, as well as management and continuous improvement, but giving everyone a voice.
I just had a customer that we recently met with that, we put the maturity curve up there and they said, where are you? And they're like, well, we're actually not even on the board because we don't have a centralized contact center right now, but we want to be a 7. Like, whew, okay, happy to do that. But now
Wait,
let's go.
there's
through the
not a
steps.
7 though, is there?
No, there is not a 7. It goes to 5. So I mean, it was a little bit of a spinal tap moment, but
Just gonna
I
work.
understood what they're going for, and they
Yeah.
want to have best possible. This patient, not customer, right? Don't say patient to healthcare, or don't say customer to healthcare.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have that best patient experience possible, but getting there is so hard. And so
Mm.
having that maturity curve up there, we were able to then have a centralized conversation about everything that needs to go into that. We'd love to get you to a 7, right? And define what that is, but you're not even on the board yet. And here's the process to go through that. And that's one of the, the benefits of talking to a partner like us is that, we have done those things. We have that experience. We can help you. We can just tell you all the pitfalls, not just here's all the tasks to do, but here's all the things you're going to run into. Here's all the
Yeah.
challenges you're going to have. So to make sure that everyone's on board before you start, and you don't find all that stuff out 6 months in and how many, thousands of dollars later.
So it sounds like you do a little bit of a, well, great. So glad that you're aggressive, about this and love that. We want to get you to wherever you want to be. But then you have a little bit of a reality discussion, I would imagine, that says, let's talk about the things that have to happen first. Let's build your foundation. Let's see how fast that happens, or kind of lay out what the planning would be for that, and then see what's reasonable and what the right timeframes are. Do you have to kind of bring them down to earth? And then, because I feel like those kind of customers can be exciting at first, but could become nightmares in the long run. But at the same time, you want people that want to step forward and really make an effort to do the very best, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Optimism is not a bad thing, right? We encourage that, but but optimistic and realistic really should
Mm,
go hand in hand.
yeah,
Expectations bad expectations, more specifically, are usually what really determines when a project fails more than anything else, right? The technical is the easy part, which is weird to say, especially coming from deployment for many years. That's the thing that we figure out and we'll get there, right? But if your expectation is not realistic, it doesn't matter how good or bad the technical implementation is, right? So
yeah.
we just have to make sure that expectations are realistic, and we can try to be positive and push for the best we can. But, we also, watch the Jetsons growing up. We thought we'd have jetpacks and flying cars by now.
We're very fortunate to have a great customer base that we work with. And I think through our partnerships, through mutual trust, respect, and ownership, right, from both sides of what the expectations are from either side for a project to work seamlessly together, right?
Yeah.
And in this day and age, migrations to the cloud or new platforms are not as cutting or bleeding edge, right? So a lot of the data security requirements or things or red flags for the right before deployment have they're still present. They're still things that you have to address. But those are examples of pitfalls that we typically work through.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the business requirements have been identified and what solutions will help deliver this? What does it look like from your agents in customer interactions? But on the back end, are you ready for that migration to the cloud? Have you talked about your workloads, talked about security requirements, data privacy, all of those pitfalls, things that we've seen in the past, and having an open candor with our customer to be able to address those things.
Level 5 is titled Intelligent and Automated. And reading it here, it's about includes artificial intelligence capabilities, natural language understanding. This is, your upper level in terms of introducing technology. So I'm sure that requires a lot of cross-functional involvement from other groups. But why would someone not want to strive for that? In what situations is a 5 a bad thing, or not a bad thing, but maybe not the thing that's right for somebody? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Morgan?
I think it depends on what kind of context center they have and how they want to engage with their customers. It goes back to what fits their business needs, like Patrick mentioned earlier. They might not have that need. They might just be a very, in their mind, simple but inflated business model. And there might just not be a need for it, or that maybe they haven't gotten to that realization yet, right? I feel like another good point I've heard recently is that you might not have that expectation within your business, but other businesses and other companies are setting that example or setting that bar for you, even if it's not within your industry. So I think customers may or may not get there, but they have to do some introspection as well.
How do you communicate the investment required, and how do you help justify it so that you can rally? What's important to understand for rallying the right people and investment required to get these things done right?
I think, like you mentioned, it's a lot of herding cats, right? But we oftentimes, especially in the technology industry, we're brought in by the technical leaders, and they are getting pressure from the business, right? They're getting a lot of questions, or they have a lot of expectations from the business pushed down to them. And if they're not already having that cadence or that heat or pressure from them, then there's a bigger problem, right?
Yeah.
So, and even still, if we do have that one-on-one with the IT leadership and being able to say, hey, this is a larger discussion. Typically, we're pretty good about asking for an audience with the business leaders if they're not already included on the front end discussions. So that way we have an all-encompassing everyone meeting of the minds
Yeah.
together, right? So our ability to paint the picture of like this is a bigger discussion affects more than just who's maintaining, who's doing the patching, who's doing the upgrades, who's doing the migrations, and understanding who it really impacts and how they make their money or how they deliver patient experience or customer experience. Us pushing back and asking for that audience helps on the front end too.
One of the things that we try to impress upon our customers is like we're going to say, let's invite everybody because we've seen these things work. We've seen them not work, sometimes in spectacular fashion. And the key, kind of through the common denominator on ones that don't work is that was not communication between all parties involved. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to impress upon people. We've seen it work, we've seen it not work. Let's make sure at least we're all on the same page. And then in terms of that synchronization or inviting people at the right time, we kind of joke all the time that we're really just business therapists, and you're just bringing us in as mediators to get your two internal teams to talk. We break everybody up into groups like we're in elementary school again, and we just talk through what are the things that we want to accomplish? What are our challenges? What are we seeing? You have to be able to, come together, agree to that, buy the right thing, install the right thing, and then handle and manage the right thing.
Yeah.
That's where we see a lot of times that people, um, kind of fall behind is the talent and the people to manage it afterwards. Everyone gets really excited about, hey, we bought a new thing, let's implement it. Day one's great. And then it just slowly over time gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It's because they didn't invest in the people, the process. They invest in the technology, but not
Mm.
everything else that goes with it. And that's again what we're trying to do to bring the business and IT together. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Make sure there are no gaps. We can't find everything ahead of time, but we can try really hard to make sure that we at least talk about the known gotchas and caveats that we've seen and try to shed some light on them.
Bringing a very simple approach or question, something that you're looking to accomplish, and coming to us and saying, "Can we do this and address X, Y, Z?" Right? We're human. We have different, varying personalities, and we see the outcomes that people are trying to deliver. That's an outcome, right? You come to us with an
Yeah.
outcome and see, can we deliver this? we've heard and we've helped customers with various outcomes, various use cases, industries, different level projects, just a single one-off project or a full-fledged migration, replace. We've run the gambit, right? So if you come to us with a use case that you're trying to solve, we can absolutely understand what you're trying to translate to us and map that to the solution and technology as well. But
Yeah.
we don't fight. We're a large organization, but we're a team. We are a well-oiled machine within the contact center's practice, and we're human. We can talk to anyone's level, right?
If you think about what a contact center typically is, you're thinking, rows and rows of agents just sitting in a room with their headsets and, very bad elevator music for hours at a time when you're, just trying to, find out why your ticket doesn't make sense or your flight's delayed or something like that, right? I tell everyone, everyone in my family what I do, and they're like, "Oh, you're why I was on hold for so long," or "Do you have a back door so I can get the Comcast agent fast," or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's just not that way anymore. As we've expanded the tool set that we can interact with and have different types of interactions, right? That's the thing. You don't have to call everybody anymore. In fact, most people don't want to call someone. So
Yeah.
that interaction, the entire approach has changed. So it's really about modernizing and updating to the current tools, the current applications and solutions that we can interact with and use that to interact with your customers. I don't go to the mall nearly as much as I used to. So I'm not going into stores and I'm not, trying stuff on and seeing what's out that week. I go to a website and then
Yeah.
I buy something. If I have an issue, I hit up somebody on the app. I'm not calling into something. So the ways that people interact with businesses have completely changed, and your contact center is going to be the core tool that you can use for that.
Morgan, as final thing here, next steps. What is the best thing for someone to do that has questions around this? They think that you could possibly help them to a degree that they know you can help them, and they have something complex. Either way, how does someone get in touch with you guys, and what are kind of some of the first steps you recommend they usually take?
Yeah, absolutely. Just reaching out on a platform. If they don't have any of our contact information, there are landing pages where you can ask for a consultation, a workshop, just a briefing, and any questions fair game, right? So if you come to us with a use case that, hey, I need to see if like validating if this solution is really broken or if it's a people process thing. Hey, I have a migration or just anything that they're trying to accomplish. If they're an impasse where they don't know how to move forward or how to even maybe marry that discussion between the business and the technical compelling event. Say that they have a system that's coming up for renewal or that they're running into issues with. So how can we address any of those problems or use cases that they're solving for and see where we can help?
Perfect. Patrick, any final comments from your side, and what should we remember here? What's the best next step from your perspective?
Um, yeah, I think the main thing is that you have to come together as an organization to make these determinations. Things aren't siloed anymore. Those days are mostly in the past. So we have to come together and determine, what we want to do, who we are, and how we want to interact, both internally and externally. And that's a bigger challenge than what are we going to buy, right? And it's what do we want to be, and we can certainly help with that. We have tons of experience within that. It's literally what we do, whether that's technically solutioning it out in our ATC or whether it's talking through organizational models and things we've seen in the past, right? We have assessments and briefings and workshops for every kind of scale that you want to talk about.
That's perfect. Guys, I just feel like this is such an awesome area for everybody. It stuns me to believe that someone would have to be convinced that this is something they should invest in, because I feel like this is literally, especially today where we are interfacing in a remote way, so much more than we ever were before. And it's not just about making sure your website looks good and is interactive. Yes, that's important, but how does that tie in to the other systems in which information's coming in different directions, trying to be there where your customer wants to interact with you because they prefer the text. They don't want to talk to a human. They don't want to wait on hold, or they do want to speak to someone. That's perfectly fine. How do we make that easy? And how do we tie these things together so that there's not a gap in information or someone's making bad decisions due to bad data? I love what you guys are working on. I think it's an exciting space, and certainly appreciate you guys taking the time to outline this for us on our research reports here. But Morgan, Patrick, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Rob.
it.
All right, building a top-tier customer experience shields businesses against economic downturns. Enhancing your contact center is crucial to boosting these interactions and bolstering your organization's health. Now, traditionally, contact centers have been perceived as cost centers, mandatory investments offering minimum value beyond rudimentary customer support. Well, the maturity curve disrupts this mindset, urging leaders to convert their contact centers into strategic value hubs instead of mere budgetary burdens. This is your roadmap. No matter your contact center's intended trajectory, use it to unify CX, marketing, web development, as well as your business line leaders. This unity will foster a superior experience for customers and agents, probably even surpassing business expectations. Just something I say. Check out all the links below. The full report is certainly worth reading. And don't forget, there are lots of people like Morgan and Patrick ready and willing to help you get the most out of your contact center strategies. Thank you so much for watching.